Today on Top Gear Rearview. That's a metric right there.
That's it. That's a metric right there.
Really? Really?
Hello and welcome to Top Gear Rearview. I'm Jeff, that's Brady. Tonight we're kicking things off in Series 3 with Episode 1 of the new Top Gear.
Episode 1 aired the 26th of October in 2003, and the star in the reasonably priced car is Martin Kemp. And if this is your first episode of Top Gear Rearview, Jeff, tell the people what they're listening to.
So we are two what you may call petrol heads, if you will. We enjoy our vehicles and we enjoy Top Gear. So this is just a podcast looking back at previous series of Top Gear. Eventually, in theory, we'll catch up, but right now we're way back in 2003, 2004 timeframe with Series 3, and we're just talking about it, enjoying it. So on that note, tonight's segments are the new Ford GT, the BMW 5 Series, the VW Lupo, basically testing a diesel versus a petrol version and seeing which is better. And the Porsche 911 GT3, which is a proper Porsche, I will say. There
are a lot. I mean, the Porsche and the Ford GT, this one's, they're hitting the series started off with correctly.
Yes.
This one's a good one.
This is. They come out swinging. So, swinging with that Ford GT, which I do like the joke here, and there was no... because of the unique way the BBC was funded, but it was kind of implied that they're not going to fly off to exotic locations, and then Jeremy hops on a plane and goes to Detroit.
Well, still technically true.
Yeah,
Detroit, they're not flying off to any exotic locations. They're flying.
It's mildly exotic because the Bears are reclaiming the city. But...
Detroit. Yeah, exactly. He flies off to Detroit because apparently he can't wait for the Ford GT to come over the UK to drive it.
I love that this is how it starts because he buys a GT in later series.
Yeah, this is the beginning. We saw it. I think it was in Series 1, Episode 1. They show us the first one.
It's early in Series 2, maybe 1. I don't know. We'd have to look back, but Richard takes a look at it and it's obviously a pre-pro model because nothing seemingly works. Like they have the crazy linear actuator on the rear hatch, and it takes 40 seconds to open. But in this case, no, they let him drive a real one around Detroit and the area nearby.
Exactly, and man, this is a great looking car.
Oh, I love the GT. A little history. So Jeremy starts off by talking about the GT70 that he bought. Then he pulls up a little toy car. Are you familiar with the GT70, Brady?
I am not familiar with the GT70.
Honestly, this one was I was like, what the hell is all this now? It is a rally car.
Really?
Yes. Mid-mounted engine, rear-wheel drive, so it does live up to that. But V6, and they made a total of 6 of them.
6 of them.
They got none of them.
Yeah.
So this one I knew I was like, oh, okay. So I Googled that and got that. Anyway, he jumps from that. There's not a lot to talk about there. It was kind of a non-starter. But the GT90, I recall seeing pictures of and being more okay, it definitely does look the part of a GT with the futuristic of the mid-90s look about it. And he did say he drove one of those. It went 40 miles an hour. Didn't work very well, if I recall right.
I love the GT90, Jeff.
I kind of like the GT90 too. It was so bonkers.
I got awash with nostalgia when he brought it up in this episode because I only had a few larger size model cars. I had tons and tons of Hot Wheel size and maybe the one size up from that. Crappy model cars, but the full nice steering wheel, turn the wheels, all the doors open model cars. I don't know what the scale was on it. I can't remember, but one of the 2 was a GT90 for whatever reason. Sam's Club had it, I suppose.
Oh, Sam's Club.
And I had a GT90, and I just got he showed it, and I was like,
I imagine this would be the 1 to 25 scale Erdl.
Yes, I believe so.
Yes. Oh,
it was so great. It was.
Could have been a Maestro 1-18, probably more likely. But anyway, yeah, totally. I know what you're saying though. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is another. We talked about it last episode with concept cars and how they get pushed through to production. This one, styling wise, not really much there. It had a dual overhead cam V12, which I don't know why it was only allowed to go 40 miles an hour. I guess they didn't really do up the bolts or anything like that.
Not only a V12 with 4 turbos.
Performance included a top speed of 253.
I can't imagine they ever actually did it, but. Interesting note on that scale model for you, Brady. The age recommendations: 8 years to 127 years.
Oh, well,
very specific.
Oh, I go get one. 127. Yeah. I wonder.
You got a ways to hold out.
I wonder if that's like the oldest person who's ever lived.
It could.
They're just gonna change it.
I hope so. Yeah. But yeah, that's I remember the car. I didn't remember those numbers, like the engine. I was like, that's like Veyron numbers all around.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think the Veyron's a 16, but otherwise very similar.
Yeah, it's only 720 horsepower. I guess it's 300 off of Veyron, but it's old.
It's also 10 years before a Veyron.
Yeah, exactly. So. They made a claim on the GT9. I know we're supposed to be talking about the GT.
We'll get there.
40 successor, the Ford GT, but the GT90 claimed that its exhaust was hot enough that it would. They needed like ceramic body tiles similar to the space shuttle to keep things from melting and burning. It's like, well, I mean, all car exhausts are that hot. Just don't put it so close to crap.
Yeah, move it down or further out or, yeah, anyway.
Ceramic tiles similar to those on the space shuttle? No, you just went down to Home Depot, got some ceramic tiles.
Exactly. The one thing I hate about these concept cars is they never dive too deep into like how, like, I want to know how that quad turbo setup worked. Like, was it sequential? Or was it just 1 turbo per 3 cylinders? Like, what did you do? But... Alas.
Oh, hey, look here.
Engine nerd in me.
I am vindicated. Jacques Nasser, then a Ford executive and eventually CEO, was very proud of the car and kept a model of it on his desk.
Yeah.
As seen in the documentary about exploding Firestone tires.
Taking it to the dark era.
It does not get better than that. That's nice. All right, enough about the GT90 with its triangles.
To the real one. So this was a proper car. This was a 500 horsepower supercharged 5.4 liter V8, which is actually the 5.4 is a super common engine in any like early 2000s Ford. That's their engine.
I mean, the 5.4 was in the F-150.
It was for quite a while, which is funny because they talk about that. Like James mentioned, like, oh, it comes out of a pickup truck. You look at the new GT and it's a twin turbo 3.5 liter 6. Which they also put some version in the EcoBoost F-150.
It literally is just an EcoBoost engine back there. It's hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, that one's a little tuned up because like those trucks ain't putting out 600 and some horsepower. But
I mean, some of them can.
I guess. God, I just love this car.
Yeah, I mean the original GT40, famously 40, came from how tall it was, which is not tall. Huge racing pedigree, Le Mans, like 3 years in a row, yeah. I believe. Knocking Ferrari off of its plinth there. But this car is an extremely well done homage to that, as in it looks almost exactly the same.
Very, very similar. At a distance I can't tell them apart.
And it's well, you can tell by the headlights, Jeff, obviously.
By how tiny the GT40 is because it's so European.
Because it's British apparently. I mean, there's nothing really to improve on the old one. They did the right thing by just making it the same shape. It's a fantastically shaped car. It's aggressive while still being sleek. It's fast. Apparently, Jeremy says it handles awesomely. I really wish I've actually sat in one and started one and revved one. But I have not. I was not allowed to drive it.
That's a bummer.
But I got to see one. It was the quintessential blue with white stripes.
Yeah.
The Shelby colors, and oh my god, it sounded so good.
Now
you can feel it in your loins, Jeff.
Now the interesting. I remember one of the car things I remember. In terms of like the tuner versions. there's a tuner out of, I believe they're Texas. They're called Hefner, and they twin turbocharge everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just do that to everything. And I remember they did a lot of Lamborghinis, and then they had one because this is a supercharged V8, but they did the same thing. They would twin turbocharge the Ford GT, and from what I recall, like you don't need to really tweak the block. Like it's such a stout motor that it doesn't need a lot of. It's a bone stock engine, and like you can run it on race gas and get 1,000 horsepower out of it.
That's impressive.
It's insane.
It's impressively overbuilt for how many of those blocks they made, you know?
Yeah.
You'd expect them to cut a few costs here and there and save millions upon millions, you know, pull one olive out of the salad or whatever and make a ton of money. But the fact that it was stout enough, I suppose, to be in a vast number of production cars helped it out.
It's bonkers. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm looking at this right now. Like, you bring your stock GT into them with 500 horsepower, and they give them $35,000, and they give you a car that on C16 gas will give you 1,000 wheel horsepower.
Yeah.
Which is so crazy.
Yeah, I guess it's the Ford modular engine, which you hear a lot of on regular car reviews. This car is exactly half the length of that Cadillac 16 from the last episode.
That's a metric right there.
That's ludicrous.
That is so ludicrous. I cannot imagine. Like GTs they're small, but they're not that small. Like two side by side, and that's the length of a car.
Oh, no. Oh, man. Oof, okay. The wheelbase. The wheelbase is half the length.
Oh, that makes more sense.
The actual car is quite a bit closer. Okay, that makes more sense.
Okay. Whew. Confuse my brain there for a minute.
That's exactly right. So one thing that Jeremy says in this episode is that the Ford GT is the first proper supercar that's been made in America. And the first thing I did, which is I think the first thing you did, Jeff, is like, well, what about the first GT40?
Yeah.
How is that not the first supercar if this is also a supercar? And it turns out, and they say it later in the episode, that almost everything about the GT40 is British.
Which is annoying.
It's very annoying. It was based on the British Lola Mark VI. The first Ford marks of it were built in the UK. It used an American-built engine, but that's about it, which is annoying. That being said, the UK, I mean, even now is the center of the high-end racing universe. All of the F1 teams are in England, and so I mean, it has some pedigree there as well. But Jeff, can you think of another American-made supercar that came before the Ford GT?
So this is a tricky one, and it kind of comes with a caveat. But I'm gonna say Saleen S7.
You're gonna say the Saleen, huh?
Which is interesting because it was designed and initially built in the UK.
Oh my god! You know, it was so probably designed and initially built because that's where I think a lot of this comes down to the fact is that's where the aerodynamics people live.
Yeah,
because of F1 and the high-end racing. That's where the wind tunnels are. That's where the guru aerodynamic people are. I think that's probably the center of it is the aerodynamics technology in central England. But the Saleen F7, you know what? Probably.
It really, to me, that's an American supercar. Like if you say Saleen S7, I say America.
Yeah. I guess you'd have the same argument about that as you would the first GT40.
I don't know. It's tough. But I was thinking of a couple others. I know that Callaway made a few crazy vets, and we talked about the Dodge Viper a little bit, and it's just that's not quite a supercar. It's not super. It's like a higher sports car, and it was crazy and just so American, but it's not a supercar.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't count a tuned-up production car. You can't call whatever the Hellcat a supercar. The Challenger. The Dodge Challenger Hellcat is not a supercar. It's a Challenger that you can get with a run-of-the-mill
horsepower.
It's just a bunch of horsepower in a not supercar. The one I had on my list was the AC Cobra from back in the day. Would that have been considered a supercar, or were there not really supercars back then, and that was just a small muscle car?
I don't know. It's so tough because I mean, the Cobra with a 454. They only made a few of those. That's a monster.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it was built as a race car, as most supercars are. Is they kind of have that racing pedigree about them and racing options, as we'll see in the GT3 later on. But I don't know. I don't know if there really is an American supercar.
It's not a terrible, like, it's tough.
I don't think it's an unfounded claim. I agree.
I don't think so.
If you have any ideas, please, we're going to post something when this episode comes out on our Facebook page. Leave a comment. We want to know what you think is the first American supercar. And if it's not the GT from the early 2000s, let us know why you think it is.
Yeah. Also, I got to correct myself. 427, not 454.
I knew it was 427.
Yeah.
I should have said something.
454 is a Chevy motor. Anyways,
I literally said to myself, I thought that was 427.
It is 427. It is 427. So, anyway, obviously being over in Detroit, in Motor City, he did not get a chance to put around the track. He did wax eloquent about it and start to think, like, you could see the gears turning, like he's thinking about buying one of these.
Yeah, I mean,
Which is almost such a fun saga.
I think he almost even said later on that he's going to go to the...
Yeah. Oh, what town was it?
But you can walk into a dealer in Barnsley.
The dealer in Guildford. Was it Guildford?
Barnsley.
And it was something more, I think, more obscure. I don't remember.
Barnsley.
Well, Guildford's where they record, so...
Barnsley.
Okay, we'll go with Guildford.
Barnsley.
I think it might be Guildford.
Barnsley.
But yeah, he's going to run down... Because unlike a lot of supercars, you can just go buy it. It was less than $100,000. Or 100,000 pounds. And you could just go to a dealer and say, I want one. Dealer. And put a down payment on it, and then watch it. Or watch it. And buy it.
Super bummer is these things have recently done the, like, air-cooled 911 thing and just started skyrocketing in value. For a while there, you could get one for 125 grand. Not there anymore. $500,000 now.
Oh, wow.
They're up there. It's really irritating because, like, I hope they come back down to the point where, like, in the time frame where I may have some chance of affording one. It won't happen, but I hope.
Yeah.
Stupid rich people.
Rich people.
So they mentioned briefly the Ford Visos. There's not a lot to talk about here, but they did talk. One thing that I thought was interesting was talking about just downloading a spec into your car, which is like that okay. I guess that's a thing. But then I started to think about it, and it's like you can actually do that with like a Focus ST or a Focus RS right now. Like you can get a map from Ford for a certain amount of money, and they'll just flash it onto your ECU, and it is a warranted like power upgrade. Now, in terms of like sharing that with friends and whatnot, no, can't do that. But it was kind of interesting. Like, yeah, there's a little bit of foreshadowing here to what actually does happen.
Jeff, do you remember when we mapped your car?
Yeah, we've done it a few times, I think. That was the Subaru, if I remember correctly.
It was, and the one thing I remember about it, the hilarious thing ever, is there's a step in the instructions that says, do not lose power to your laptop. It will render your car inoperable. Like, just, your car will be dead forever. Nothing you can do about it.
That's it.
It's like the little warning that you get on your video game that says, don't turn off power, we're saving. You know, not yet. But like,
stakes are so much
the stakes
higher.
are, don't turn off power, we're saving. If you do turn off power, your house burns down. We can't stop the flames, Brady. Don't turn off power.
Don't do it.
I just remember we got to that point because we were reading through it. You were working the computer and I was running the instructions. And I got to it and it said, don't lose power. We'll render your vehicle inoperable. And I'm like, oh.
Oh, no.
You got that thing plugged in, brother? Let's go ahead and run
that's
an
funny.
extension cord real quick.
I've done it a few more times, like, since on different cars. It's not that dire of a thing usually, but yeah, it is impressive. Like, I mean, a lot of you look at like Cobb Tuning now, and it's like you can get off the shelf maps for things. I mean, it's kind of funny because you're spending like $600 to $1,000 for ones and zeros, and like the ability to plug something in and transmit those into the ECU. But it's cool. That's what happens now. Like, there are semi-conservative manufacturers and then other tuners that are like, nope, crank the boost.
Yep. How many boosts you want? All of them? All right, you got it, brother.
Enjoy your boosts.
I hope you like a new intake.
So yeah, that's all I got on that one. It would be fun to be able to do that remotely. Be like, you're gonna go faster now, but no, can't do that yet.
Yeah, we're not hacking into things, Jeff. This
isn't Eagle Eye.
This isn't a '90s computer movie. Or Eagle Eye. Oh my god.
Yeah. Oh yeah, throwback. Shia.
Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, I love Shia.
The Ford Visos, Jeff, leads us kind of into the news. And there's only really one thing I wanted to talk about from the news. It was the guys arguing with themselves and the crowd about, has there been a Ferrari since the Daytona, which I think was like 1973 is when it stopped being produced.
Yep.
Has there been a good-looking Ferrari since then? And this is in 2004.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, my question to you, just like before, the first American supercar, has there been a good-looking Ferrari since 1973?
F40. All day long.
Yeah, that Ford is pretty mean-looking. I like it. I like it a lot.
It's I especially done in like a. I mean, it always looks good, but I think dark, like black on black. Oh God, it's a good looking car.
You know what I find interesting is it's got headlights, and then it also has pop-up headlights.
Yeah, it's got bonus headlights.
Why?
I don't know.
Why, when you're only putting like famously the F40 only had like one coat of paint to be lighter.
Yeah.
Why would you have double headlights?
It's really funny, like. Because you see it, like, you know, running on the track and whatnot. And it's like, yeah, that's the headlights. That's the headlights. And then you finally see one with the headlights up, and you're like, what is happening?
What the hell's going on with that F40? What tarnation?
Yeah. I don't know. But, okay, what do you got? You got one that's been more attractive than the Daytona?
Oh, no. The Daytona's glorious. And you know what? You know, the F40 is nice, but would I call it a good-looking car? In the same way that I like the 458 and the new stuff that's coming out, probably not. The F40 is so good of a car that it probably it transcends. Like, yes, it looks awesome because it's an F40 and it's just badass. But it's not a pretty car. And I wonder if maybe they're asking, like, has Ferrari made a pretty car? You know, Magnum PI's car, not pretty. It's just wedge after wedge after wedge through the 80s and 90s. And like even like we had the famous 575N Maranello. Yeah. Not a great looking car, you know. They haven't bridged the gap from the glory days of the 60s and 70s to I think what they're in now, where majority of the cars they put out now are all good looking.
Yeah, I agree. Like because when I heard that like kind of call to action, really, I went online and I started looking around and seeing what I could find, and I gotta say, there's not a lot out there.
No, I mean. The Testarossa, the 355, they're all just wedges.
They look really, really similar to each other. And there were some really pretty ones. I would say, okay, so my I guess real entry to this would be the Dino, which ended in 76.
Oh, I kind of put that in the same. All right, yeah. I guess technically it is after 73.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barely.
Barely.
Oh, but man. I don't know. It's anyway, just barely. It looks like the real pretty body style went away in like 74. So yeah, doesn't really count. But no, I see what they're saying, and I do agree that like since then, like they've I mean the 360, 430, okay, and then they get into like 458, 488, and the current models. They're good looking cars.
Yeah,
I'm interested to see how they age.
Well, we'll see. All you have to do is wait, Jeff.
Yep. I'm looking at some of the competitors too. I was like, what is Lamborghini doing at the same time? Because the like old Lamborghini to me is the Miura, which was right in the same time frame, ended in 72. And then they got a decent amount of wedges. The let's see, we got the Espada was kind of cool. That looked like a muscle car. And then the Jarama and the Yuriko. You get to the Countach and the I love the Jalpa. The Jalpa is one of my favorite Lamborghinis. And then the Diablo. Yeah. But then you got the LMO02, which is just beautiful in its own right.
Yeah, but the Jalpa's just a wedge, dude. It looks like a...
I know.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. No, it was all kind of just different shapes of wedge.
Yeah, I don't think... I mean, the Diablo's fine. I don't think that's a very good-looking car. But from the Miura, I don't think Ferrari made a car that I don't think Lamborghini made a car that I really love the look of. From the Miura till specifically the Gallardo Spider.
Interesting. Okay.
I love the Gallardo Spider.
It's a good looking car. There's a few in there that I honestly like the Jalpa. I would never want to own a Lamborghini because I can't imagine. But I think that if I were to like have to buy one in that range, Jalpa all day.
Jalpa
With an LMO02 to tow it around.
That's a hard Jalpa.
All right, sir. On to this BMW, I suppose, eh?
If we have to, Jeff.
I guess this is kind of like. I feel like this is what they wanted Top Gear to be at the beginning, and by they I mean like I don't know, bureaucrats or something. Like review this sort of entry-level car, but not really entry-level, but like affordable by a person who has some money.
Mid-range sedan, go.
Yeah, E60.
Yeah,
ugly question mark.
Yeah, so I remember when this car came out and how it divided, and I wouldn't even say divided, like almost everyone hated it.
Yep.
The way it looked, its little eyelash headlights, its weird, funky pseudo eyelash taillights. It kind of from what it was before. It's a lot more rolly and bulbous and curved. Yeah. I mean, it's still a mid-sized saloon, but that's essentially the gist of most of the arguments in this review. Is it ugly? And a vast majority of the Top Gear audience says yes.
And
I remember when it came out, I didn't like it at all. I thought it looked goofy.
Yeah, I think it's aged okay. I don't think it's a terrible looking car now, but man, the E39 is just such a cleaner looking car.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that I commented in the last episode about the Cadillac style, and it's like, like it or don't like it, that's just what it is now. Kind of the vertical angled headlights and the chevron grille, that's just what it is. This went from this radically looking odd goofball ugly duckling to that's just what BMW looks like now.
Yeah, that's kind of the design language now.
Yeah, I mean the 6 Series has its own thing, but it's relatively similar. It's got like a droopy, slanted down eyes almost, and this has got like high strung eyelash ones, but it's just what it looks like now.
Yeah, it's I mean, I gotta imagine he was driving one of the mid-range ones. I did like the M5 variant of this particular generation. The E60 M5 was a V10. It was the only V10. That's a proper engine. But
that's badass.
Yeah. Since before and after V8s, this one V10.
Yeah, it's interesting. The previous and the successor to this M5s. The body styles that they have look a little more race car aggressive. This one, I feel like it just doesn't. It looks like a big rolly like Jag. It looks like a Jag, and the fact that it has a V10, it's just the V10 in it is just ludicrous. It seems
funny. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I remember watching this episode at some point when I lived in the UK, because I remember he went to like some refinery or something. I just remember James's review of this and essentially how he said that he didn't mind the looks. But let's get beyond the looks, I suppose, and talk about a cliche, Jeff, that the old the old 5 Series had.
He had more computing power than the Apollo spacecraft that went to the moon.
That's such a played out thing. So does my TI-85. Whatever, man. Just everyone. They flew up there with sticks and like matches, and it's not. I hate that. I guess we're like 15 years later, but I hate that cliche, and it stood out to me, and I'm calling him out on it because it's boring.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the car itself.
I don't have much to say. It's boring. It has some cool features. They brought in like iDrive, which cool is a question mark on that one because a lot of people hate it. But,
a lot of people hate that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it had like the HUD, the heads-up display, active cruise control, which I will say is a godsend. I love active cruise control. But yeah, it was just like, okay, it's a logical progression. It's just kind of in a wimpy body.
Yeah, it looks. You said it right. It looks a little tall. The estate version looks way better than the sedan version.
Agreed.
I like almost all estates over the sedans myself, anyway, regardless of the make or model. But yeah, it's kind of a oddly proportioned, I think I'll say.
Yeah.
In terms of its ride height. Because, it has only 3 or 4 inches of ground clearance, but it looks really tall. Like almost...
It does.
What is the Gran Turismo? Like the Grand Touring is the crossover variant they used to have for a few years.
Yeah. That I hate with a strong passion.
It almost looks as big as that in some pictures.
Woof.
Shh. Plus his girlfriend. Woof. Yeah, I mean, it's James made the argument at the end that it's still kind of the cream of the crop for that sector. Like he compared it to the Jaguar, Mercedes, S-Class.
I don't even know. I feel like the 7 Series would be S-Class. This would be I guess E.
Sorry, yeah, E-Class. Sorry,
yeah,
E-Class. Some Alpha sedan that I'd never seen or heard of.
Yep.
And this is probably the best one, but it's kind of ugly, I suppose.
I agree. I think that's about all the time it warrants.
It's about it. Just a regular James May review.
Woo.
On to our star in a reasonably priced car, Jeff. Have you ever seen The Wedding Singer?
Indeed, I have, sir.
At the very end, when Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler get married, the song that Steve Buscemi is singing.
I know this much is true.
I vaguely remember this, yes.
It's called True. It's by a band called the Spandau Ballet, and they had a bassist. This is a long chain. They had a bassist who then went on to be an actor, and his name is Martin Kemp, and he's our star in a reasonably priced car today.
He's Ross Kemp's brother, right?
Yeah,
no?
Yeah, pretty much.
No,
okay.
No,
a different Kemp, Greg Kemp, his brother, who was also in the Spandau Ballet. It's the worst band name ever. Spandau Ballet. Spandau wasn't Spandau like a German prison? I think it was in World War II.
Walter Mandau?
The Walter Mandau Ballet.
Mandau Ballet.
The Mandau Ballet. So he was in this band. He was a bassist, and then he became an actor and got a lot more famous being an actor than he was. So now, I looked through doing some research on him, and all the pictures I see of him are him off in the background back in the 80s, being a bassist. Get out of here. And then all of their modern reunion tours, he's all up front because he's this big famous actor.
Yeah.
He was on the EastEnders for a while, which is a big time soap opera in the UK.
Yep.
But I don't even know what to say.
I know. I'm looking at his IMDb right now. There's not much. I mean, it's okay. He's definitely a British celebrity.
Well, they talked about how apparently on one of his on his TV shows he got to crash a 635 BMW, which is a very pretty car. And Jeremy says, "Couldn't you have crashed something worse?" And he goes, "No, that's the benefit of being an actor. Is I get to crash a 635 and don't have to worry about it."
Yeah,
that's a good point. They talked a little bit about his car history.
Yeah, he's a Porsche fan.
Well, he started with the Lancia Beta, or Beta, as we would say here.
Yeah.
Spider.
Which, they had to think about it.
It
was this.
Oh man. He kind of tried to come across as a car guy.
Yeah, but he didn't know anything about his cars.
He knew that it was the black one. And then you said he's a 911 guy. Then he bought a 911. I have his car history down here. 911, 911, 911, 911, 944 for one day.
Yeah.
911, 911, 911, 911.
I laughed at the 944 because I was I've driven a well-maintained, relatively cheap 944, and I agree. Nope.
Yeah, so he immediately went back for 911s. It must be nice to be rich where you can just keep buying 911s every day.
Getting them. Yep.
Yeah. But, they compared him a lot on the episode to Ross Kemp, who was on last season.
Mm-hmm.
And Ross did a 154 in the wet. And Martin did a
154 in the wet.
54 in the wet, that's right. Not a lot to be said about his lap. It looked pretty damn wet.
Yeah.
And he was all over the place. I'm really surprised he got a 154 because
it did not look that good.
Through the hammerhead, he was all over the place.
Yeah. He was
if he would have been even anywhere close to the track, he would have probably
shaved off a couple seconds.
Couple seconds at least, because he like went way past the line and like almost stopped. It was hilarious. It's a pretty funny lap to watch if you guys get a chance to check it out.
Yeah, worth it. And these episodes are available on Amazon Prime. Link in the show notes if you want to take a look. So Brady, did you ever drive a VW Lupo over there in the UK?
I did not. No, I only was ever in a Golf. Nothing smaller on the VW side. Though I think was the Lupo still out when I was there?
I'm not sure. I do not recall how long this one went.
Yeah, so it wasn't even out while I was over there. It stopped production in 2005. It got replaced by the Fox and then replaced by the Up. And I remember the Up, and I also think they played a sport with the Up that we'll see in a later season on Top Gear UK. But no, Jeff, I never did ride in a Lupo.
All right. It looked pretty tiny.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those cars over there, and it makes a lot of sense, especially in the UK. I can't imagine driving anything close to any of the cars I own. And I own a RAV4, and that still seems like it'd be too big. But this was all about diesels.
Yeah, it was basically the diesel and the petrol version, and doing a lap of the M25.
Yeah, the ring road around London, and hopefully they'll get away from this. The in quotes challenge was however much money Jeremy saved by driving the diesel around the ring road versus the petrol version, he got to spend at the shop.
Yeah, it was 119 miles, which that's a big ass ring road.
It's a big city.
Fair enough.
But you kind of notice that the ring road's like, it's out in the middle of nowhere. Like it's not like the 610 loop in Houston where it's like halfway through the city. Like they're out in the country practically.
It's a proper ring road.
London's a pretty big city, so 120 miles is a long way. Though Jeremy did pretty good on the gas mileage in the diesel Lupo. He got 75 miles a gallon.
Which is bonkers.
Ludicrous, but it is 100% highway, I presume. Yeah. And that's kind of right in the sweet spot for all cars. Kind of like
they did
5560.
I remember the challenge coming up in a later episode where they get one tank of fuel to go. I cannot remember where to where, but and I think it's either Hammond or May that chooses a VW. I believe it's a Polo though.
Yes, he chooses a Polo, the 3-cylinder diesel Polo.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And he gets.
But it's essentially the same thing here. Is you're getting up in the 70s of gas mileage, which is just ludicrous.
Crazy. That's what I get on my small motorcycle. Like, that's just too much. But even the gas version got a 42 mile per gallon average.
Yeah, which is pretty good, but that's more in the realm of possibilities. But 75.
That's what I get on my big motorcycle.
Jeremy did some comparison between the two cars. The petrol version has a much higher top speed. I think it was in the 120s.
It's in that range, yeah.
And the diesel was only 105. It is a turbo diesel.
Just barely.
Has a 12-second 0 to 60, and Jeremy said
0 to 60 in double figures. Well, I didn't know that was still possible.
Jeremy also says that he likes the Lupo, but it has something up front, what the Germans would call quality.
Quality.
Which is him saying quality.
Exactly. I was like, he's just saying quality. It's just, he's saying it's a decently built car.
Yeah, and I guess that's what you get. He commented its price. I didn't write it down since it didn't really play anything.
£10,200.
It's a bit more expensive than its competitors, but you get a better quality and a presumably pretty good power plant.
Yeah. So in that 119 miles, he saved £4.29, which was enough to buy what becomes a series regular, the Golden Cock.
I know. I can't believe this is the first time we see this.
I saw that and I got unreasonably excited.
So he got. I don't know, Jeff. Do we need to bleep out cock?
I don't think so. It's actually a cock.
I think
they were trying to go back to. He's going to do another lap so he can go get the Golden Beaver, but
I think I might bleep it out for fun.
Fair enough.
Yep. That's
about it.
The only cock allowed on Top Gear Rearview is in the expletive, as in "oh cock." James had something to say to Jeremy at the end of this. He says that the 3 things that you'll people will think of you if they see you driving a diesel Lupo.
Okay, when you drive one of those and it's a diesel, it says three things about you. One is you're tighter than 2 coats of paint. The second one is that you care so much about the environment that you want to leave a little protective sooty film over it. And the third one is you're probably French.
I just wanted to say that so I could say tighter than 2 coats of paint because I'm going to say that all the time now.
It's a good saying. So perhaps the best car in this episode. 911 GT3.
Whoa. Better than the 4GT?
I don't know, man. Yeah, okay, fair enough. No. Second best car in this episode. The 996.2 Porsche 911 GT3.
Yeah, this is the first one that came to the first GT3 that came to the United States.
It was this one was the first one. The 996.1 GT3 was available elsewhere, but that was the 996 generation was the introduction of the GT3 variant.
Yeah, they just I think it was just a facelift really, the .1 and .2 change.
Pretty much, yeah.
Maybe offered a few more options. They commented on the ceramic brakes, maybe that's something that they offered.
Yeah, that was one. It was interesting because, Porsche, standard thing when you get the fancy cars is you pay more to get less, so you don't get the AC and you don't get the stereo.
It's interesting.
Give us another 40 grand. But
I was reading about this car, and the stereo and the AC were no-cost options. So they took them away. You paid more for the car, obviously.
Yeah.
They took them away, but you could have them back.
If you ask nicely.
Or just check the box, but you didn't have to pay for it. You didn't have to pay extra. You already paid to take it away, so they're just gonna. I guess they came into a box and put these in or whatever.
Yeah, that is interesting. That is very non-Porsche.
No, because I would expect them to charge you $10,000 to take it out and $5,000 to put it back in.
Exactly. So I saw that. I was surprised as well. Yeah, this is. We talked a little bit about it in the 996 Turbo, which was earlier in Series 2, and this is a unique block, basically an air-cooled block that is then water cooling is added, and it is. It makes it a much more stout engine. So for anybody looking to buy a 996, get this or the Turbo.
Yeah, anything below that had it was main bearing problems.
Intermediate shaft bearing issues.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So
it is. On all things considered, that's actually a kind of an overblown issue. Everybody freaks out about it. It's not that bad. It only affects a certain percentage of cars, and it's really the cars that have not been driven that well. I don't know. I've heard mixed things. It depends on who you talk to, but yeah, this particular one, you just don't even have to worry about it.
No, you're good to go.
This is a 3.6 liter flat six, putting out 355 horsepower, 0 to 60 at 4.5 seconds. I believe 4.5 seconds, and top speed of 190. So this was not the RS. I believe will come slightly later, or might have come around this time. But the GT3 is no slouch. It is a monster of a car.
I am always amazed at what Porsche can get out of a naturally aspirated engine.
It's crazy.
Out of a 3.6 liter flat six, they got 350 top speed 190. That's nuts.
Yeah. 7 minutes and 56 seconds around the ring.
That's fast as hell. We saw it. We saw it here on. They did put it around the track, and we'll get to that later on. But it put up an unbelievable time around the Top Gear track as well.
Yeah, it's just a beast of a car. I hear, or they mentioned that the engine itself cost $40,000.
I believe it.
That's so much.
You take an original one and then you do a ton of modifications to it to put that water cooling on afterwards.
Yeah,
I believe it.
Yeah, it's some money.
They talked about it with the turbo, and again with this GT3, they talked about how the engine hangs out over the rear wheels and it makes it a little more unstable, and how the Germans are all, the Germans are all ornery and stubborn about changing its location. But once again, they talk about how the Germans have figured it out, and Porsche has tuned this car perfectly, that it's not wild and unpredictable anymore, that it handles greatly. So I guess it's all kind of running through the same thing that we talked about with the 911 Turbo. But this brings me to Hammond's point. He talks about the full rear-engined kind of discussion as if it was a flaw, and then he compares it, it's a flaw the same way that Cindy Crawford's mole is a flaw, and how J-Lo's enormous buttocks is a flaw. And I said, if J-Lo's enormous buttocks is a flaw, then I don't know what's right. I literally have that written down.
I love how much they love J-Lo's butt.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, who doesn't? You know,
English people love it a booty.
a little Latin flavor.
So as you mentioned, just a stonking fast time here.
I mean, it was really, really wet.
Yeah.
And it put up a 127.2, which on its own is unbelievable. Only a few cars are faster than that. The Koenigsegg, the Zonda, yeah, that's it.
That's
that's it, man.
Short list.
That's it. And you can take 4 seconds off of that.
Oh, that's so fast.
And so its actual time, its modified time is the fastest around the track. It beats the Zonda by 0.6 seconds. If the 4 seconds is to hold true.
See, interestingly, looking at the list, they call it very wet, which they actually take.
They
take
call it
6
very
seconds.
wet?
Yeah.
No, really?
That's so fast.
Oh my god, I think we have to then, don't we?
Oh, that is in the official, being Wikipedia, but
Jeff, we could give this thing zeros and it's already 12th on our list. And I have a prediction, we're not going to give it zeros.
Did we get a price in there?
Oh, no. Do you have a price?
I got one, 72 grand.
All right. So, Jeff, this did an 127.2 in the very wet, which modifies down to an 81-second lap. Oh, my God. That's so fast. It costs...
to put that, I mean, okay, they're looking ahead. There's some in the future episodes that get in that one, but that's like SLR McLaren and like C63 AMG Black Series, and that's fast.
That's with a different Stig too, which I think is probably adding a little bit.
Definitely, yeah. Those are all later. So,
oh, you know what, Jeff? Put in 72,000 pounds. Even without our scores now, moved it up to 9th place.
Right,
already in 9th place. So a desirability score, Jeff. Once you give it to me, I'll compare it to, I suppose, the 911 Turbo.
I'm gonna give it an 8.
You're gonna give it an 8. So you like this one more than the Turbo?
The GT3 comes with like a bit of, I mean, it's a no-nonsense car.
That is true. I like it as much as the Turbo, and I gave the Turbo an 8.
Okay. Double 8, high five.
This puts it into easily first place on our Top Gear Rearview Power Rankings.
Goodbye. Oh, what was it? It wasn't a Morgan. I keep wanting to say Morgan.
It was the Noble. The Noble M12 GTO 3. This gave it a score of 123.9, which, Jeff, is as fast as the XTR2 was before.
Wow.
As high. This might have supplanted those non-street legal track day cars with its score. 123.9, just ahead, obviously, of the one we put in last episode, the Noble M12 GTO-3, and behind nobody.
I think it's going to be a while before this one gets topped. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can look ahead a little bit to this season. But the cars...
I'm not seeing much.
What do they put around the track? Maybe the Gallardo? A Mini Cooper S Works?
Come on! Smart Roadster Bravest V6 bi-turbo? No.
Well, okay. No. We're going to have to wait till that one goes around before we can make a comment. No, this is a great car. Super fast. Looks like a Porsche, but it's got that fancy spoiler on the back. One thing I commented is he popped the trunk hood to look at the engine. You couldn't see much.
Frunk,
but when he
Brady.
No, but he popped the...
Oh, he popped the actual... Okay, he popped
the hood.
Yeah, the bood.
And then he slammed it, and everything on that back panel kind of gave a little shudder shake. Like, cutting some weight there, Porsche.
I like the wings on wings on wings in the back, too.
I know, right?
Just stack them up.
We need more downforce. Why? Well, our engine's back here, too. So just more of it. It's better.
Yeah, you're good.
Well, Jeff, let's tie the ribbon on this episode with what this episode started with that we didn't talk about. This episode started with a certain black race-suited and black helmeted Stig on the HMS Invincible, which is at the time, I believe, the most modern aircraft carrier they had. And they kind of left it there, ominously, is he's out somewhere in the North Atlantic. And they come back to that at the end of this episode.
With a very aggressive challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how long the HMS Invincible's deck is. I don't know about that Jaguar and its current state of getting up to 100 and then back down to 0 in whatever length that is.
They gave it 200 meters.
200 meters seems like not enough.
So I looked this up. So it's 656-ish feet. And there are a decent amount of 0 to 100 to 0 distance stats out there. So so 656, that seems aggressive, yeah? So what would you think, let's say one of the cars we've seen recently, the Lamborghini Murcielago, would do that in?
Oh, man. So I feel like 656 is short. So I think the Lamborghini would be more than 656 feet.
You would be right. 1229.
Whoa.
by a factor of about 2.
Oh, man.
Yeah, like look at, the shortest one in this particular road and track test is the 911 Turbo, and I believe this is the 996 generation in 1147. So it's still like basically twice as much.
Okay, so it's obviously gonna fail from the get-go.
Yeah, never gonna happen.
But this is the nitrous Jag, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's amazing, quote unquote.
Yeah, exactly. But so the Stig gets in. They have a presumably fake speed dial on the screen, and he gets up to 109 miles an hour, and then just
that's too fast.
That's too fast, and they just
air cannon him off because he saw a giant air cannon.
Yeah, they started when he's walking around it right before the bit happens. You can see the gigantic pipe sticking out of the back.
I know, it's hilarious.
But yes, the Stig dies, Jeff.
Blah blah.
Rest in pieces at the bottom of the North Atlantic.
R.I.P. one Perry McCarthy.
Oh, is that who it was?
That's who it was.
I don't even know who the first thing was.
Come on, you didn't even look?
I didn't even look. I just know that I can't wait for new Stig to show up. I'm interested to see how he does it because I don't remember this part. It's interesting. I remember the 5 series review by May, but I do not remember any of this supplementary Stig death stuff.
Man, I totally remember this one. The launching of the Jag. That sticks in my head.
Interesting.
Yeah. So as Brady already spoiled, Ben Collins will be our next Stig, and he sticks around for a while, and he's a hell of a driver.
He really is a hell of a driver. I think he does extremely well. I feel like he's much more consistent. I feel like this Stig is taking different lines with different cars and is taking he's getting way more over and understeer on all of his corners. From actually, now that I sit here and actually watch the laps really intently because I do a podcast about it. So it'd be really interesting to see how many more cars start taking the lead of the leaderboard once Ben Collins gets behind the wheel.
Yeah, I do believe these times will improve. Yeah, looking at McCarthy's history, he had some time in F1, but it wasn't really time in F1. It was like just issues. So he definitely had a little bit of a pedigree, but Collins has a much stronger resume.
That's exactly right. I guess that's the end of this episode, Jeff.
That's about it.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this inaugural episode of Series 3 from Top Gear UK. We appreciate you hanging out. If you enjoyed it, think about giving us a subscription on whatever podcast app you use. Or, maybe better yet, heading over to iTunes and dropping a rating and a review. That'd help us out a lot.
Yeah, we keep up a social media presence. We do have a Facebook that Brady populates pretty regularly with articles. So if you're a petrol head like us, go ahead, check that out. I think we got some good ones. I send them over to, and he finds his own good ones. So there's some solid ones up there. And these are also available, these episodes, on YouTube on our channel, which you can find by searching just Top Gear Rearview on YouTube, if that's a preferred avenue of getting your listening. So on that note, we will see you guys back here for Series 3, Episode 2.